Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Bussewitz-Quarm, and I am the current Repertoire and Resources Chair of Choral Composition for the Eastern Division of the American Choral Directors Association. Over the next several months, I'll be introducing you to various choral composers within the ACDA Eastern region. American composer Caroline Mallonee is an award-winning composer based in Buffalo, New York. Her music has been programmed at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, Symphony Space, Merkin Hall, Bargemusic, Tenri Cultural Center, Town Hall, Roulette, and National Sawdust in New York City, as well as further afield. Her choral music is performed widely. She has been commissioned by the Baltimore Choral Arts Society, the Cecilia Chorus of New York, the Young People's Chorus of New York City, Vocalese Chamber Choir, Buffalo Girl Choir, and a Prairie Home Companion, among others. I spoke with Caroline from her studio in Albany, New York. Caroline spoke about the relationship between herself as the creator and the listener, whether it be the audience or the choral singers, as well as the importance of text and its relationship with her musical creation. Okay, great. Hi, Caroline. How are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. I'm good. I'm very good, very good. Spring is here. So, you know, it's a little chilly again today, but we've had some days in the 60s down here on Long Island. I don't know about you up in Buffalo. How has the temperatures been up there?
It's been up and down. Like we had some really warm days over 80, and then I might have seen some snowflakes this morning.
Wow. Yeah, that crazy time of year. April can be like that. I remember up in Ithaca, it was, you know, just because it was April doesn't mean it was done snowing. So, can you tell me a little bit about your upbringing, like what it was like, where you grew up?
Yeah, so I'm from Baltimore, and yeah, I was really lucky to have a really good musical education. I started piano when I was 5, and then added violin when I was 7. And my parents enrolled me at the Peabody Prep. And so I spent every Saturday of my youth and teenage years at Peabody. And yeah, I took violin and chamber music, and I played in the orchestra, and I took a lot of musicianship. And it was through Peabody that I really, really got interested in, well, music. And then my musicianship teachers at Peabody told me about the Walden School, which is the summer program in New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah.
And I spent 6 years there, and that's where I really discovered that I just wanted to write music.
Beautiful.
And I'm super involved with Walden ever since.
Oh, that's great. You know, when we're done the interview, I'm going to ask you if you know somebody, because I have a dear friend who I think is connected to that school, if I'm not mistaken. And New Hampshire is, I love New Hampshire. We vacation up there a lot of time in the White Mountains. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area. What drew you to choral music? You have a lot of just beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous pieces. You know, Look for Us Again, really interesting. Want to talk a little bit about that in a second. And one that I just thought was just so breathtakingly beautiful was Dona Nobis Pacem. Really love that. So what drew you to choral music? Is that your primary? Did you say that that's what you write for the most, or I know you write for other ensembles and you know, things too? But just tell me a little bit about your choral music and how that fits in.
Well,
and by the way, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but your cat is taking this right stage here, center right, and you know, we should introduce your cat to the audience.
Okay, this is Sierra, Sierra Papaya Mallonee, and she comes to all my Zooms.
Awesome. Hi, Sierra. Welcome.
Anyway, for me, the voice is like a primary way of how I express myself. I sing a lot. I sing in 2 professional groups here in Buffalo, and I've always sung. And I think that started in school, but then also at Walden, where it's a really, really important part of the pedagogy. And yeah, so I've been writing choral music since, I don't know, I wrote a piece when I was 12 that was performed for chorus. And I'm always working on something with words. I love poetry. Yeah, I'm always writing choral music. But I also absolutely love to write for instruments and instrumental music. So I always have sort of one project that has words and one project that doesn't have words at the same time.
Do you have a favorite instrument to write for?
Well, you know, I love the cello, but it's funny, whenever anybody asks me what instruments they're going to put in their piece. I'm always like, well, can I have a bass clarinet? I
Oh,
love
really?
bass clarinet. Yeah, I just think it fills out the sound. It's so percussive. It's so expressive. I always ask for a bass clarinet.
Make a note to myself, write more bass clarinet. There we go. That's really cool. And I thought that was interesting that you said at Walden that like singing was such an important part of like the education there. That makes sense. I think like, when I was in college, the idea of like, I was a piano major and singing all of the parts just really made me hear all the lines and everything like that. And it's just because it embodies it, right? It embodies what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. What is an experience or like a part of your identity that you feel has influenced your voice as a composer? You said Peabody was a really important part. Like that is a strong influence on you being a composer, but your voice in particular, like how you write, like what do you think was an influence on that?
Oh, wow. Sorry if you typed that question up before. I feel like I don't know how to answer that.
Oh, that's okay. I could reword it just like what moves you as a composer? Yeah, like what is it that like just what drives you?
I think I'm thinking about the listener and what I'm trying to say to them, what I'm hoping they're going to walk away with. And so sometimes that's like the shape of a piece, but sometimes it's like the concept of the piece. And sometimes it's just a general feeling. And I start from that. Yeah, I think it's about the listener. And I mean, ultimately, I'm a listener too. So I think it's also like, how is this piece going to make me feel? And what am I trying to put in the world? Like, what am I trying to say? So it's also about me as the creator. And does it
like I guess the listener would vary depending upon the commissioning choir, right, or who you're writing the piece for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the performers are a really important part of the triangle too. It's like, what are they? I mean, they're listeners too, and they're the people that are going to spend the most time with it. The listener's going to hear it maybe once at a concert, but the singers are going to hear it every single week, and they're going to like think about why things are the way they are in the piece. And so I'm also writing for them.
It's funny because I think that's really interesting. And my last interview with Siobhan, we were talking a little bit about how, there are some pieces that are just accessible on day one. You sit down, you read them, and it's beautiful. You enjoy singing it, but you get most of the idea of what it's about. Like, in the first rehearsal, 2, maybe 3, and then there's some where like you have to like be with it for an entire season, right? You have to sing as a singer and as a composer. But I mean, as a singer, I just know like when I sang in choirs, there were some pieces where at first I didn't even get it. I got it and I was like, I don't completely understand what the composer's doing here, but it turned out to be my favorite piece by the time the concert came around because there was such depth. And so when you talk about, writing for the commissioning or for the choir also, that makes sense to me. Yeah. So when you're working on a commission, like besides writing for the choir, what do you find factors really significantly in your final product?
Well, for choral music, for me, it's all about the text. And so I always start with the text. And, often I copy it out by hand or I print it out and then I get out my colored pencils and then I like draw lines between things that I want to make connections between. So, and then I figure out what musical connection that is, whether it's like a rhythmic motif or whether it's a certain sonority. And like, I figure out how the piece is going to go. And just how am I expressing this poem and what's in the poem that needs to be like simmered up to the surface and connected for the audience.
Yeah, I love that. So what pieces are you most excited to share with anybody who's watching this interview?
I'll probably share my longest piece for choir, I think. I know it's not my longest. Okay, but it's a big one that I wrote. It's called Songs of Crystal. and it's a set of 4 poems that sort of trace the seasons of the year.
Oh, nice.
So the poems I collected myself, they weren't a set. And so I'm sort of happy with how I made sort of an arc of the year out of these poems that were just already existing.
That's really cool. And are they, was it a commissioning choir that commissioned the whole entire set, or was it different commissions that you saw as like working together?
It was one choir. It was one choir here, vocalist chamber choir. And that's one of the groups I sing in here. And I have been singing with them for about 5 years. And then they commissioned me to write a piece in celebration of their 15th season. And so the 15th wedding anniversary is traditionally the crystal anniversary. And so I was like, I just sort of started with that. I was like, okay, what if it's about crystal or songs of crystal? And then I found all these poems that I think actually only 3 of them mention crystal, but somehow I felt like they went together.
Right. That's really cool. Can you tell me a little bit more about, and I'm going to, after I ask this question, I'm going to mute myself again because the dog seems to have found a friend somewhere on the road. The song that I mentioned earlier, Look for Us Again, the Carl Sandburg, is a Carl Sandburg poem, right? And it's actually, the poem is titled Pencils.
I think it might be.
I think it is. I think that when I was doing my research, Pencils by Carl Sandburg. I just love how, I'll just share my own observation, how it seems like the story just grows in color as you know, as the song goes on, the way that you brought in layers and movements.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's a gorgeous poem, absolutely gorgeous. And that was a commission from the Baltimore Choral Arts Society to celebrate their longtime director, Tom Hall, on his retirement. And so I chose that piece because I think it's sort of about things that last, and it's about stars and pencils and like sorry, it's hard to say exactly what a piece and a poem are about, but I think it's about the importance of things and sitting with them and letting them last and be appreciated. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It really is. It's a gorgeous piece. And tell me a little bit about Dona Nobis Pacem. Did you already tell me about it? I forget, but I just remember it just felt the warmth from it. It was just so beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's an old one. But it's still, one of my choirs did it last fall. It's nice when things still get done 20 years after you write them. I know I was in graduate school when I wrote that one. And it takes a sort of just a 4-note motive that's sort of introduced as a plain chant. And then I just harmonize it. And really, I just did an exercise. I was like, how many different ways can I harmonize this? And then I sort of placed them in order and made a piece out of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's very simple and so beautiful because of that. I think there was this one spot where, and it's interesting because it's like there was this progression, the 4 notes, and it went to this chord, and it was just that one moment I was like, that's just so, you know, I just love that you went there, you know. And so I guess that's like I could totally see what you're talking about, how you just like, you know, try different things out, and yeah, just very beautifully placed. So I mean, thanks for taking some time to, you know, to talk to me and to the membership of the ACDA Eastern Conference and whoever else sees this, because it's going to be on our website and stuff. So, but how can people get in contact with you if they'd like to reach out?
They can find me through my website. So it's CarolineMallonee.com. That's the best way to find me.
That's the best way to do it. Right. Yeah. Okay. Great. Caroline, thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Michael, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Great. All right, awesome.